Well, thank you for being here. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to this webinar on OperatorFabric. Great to see that you're all here. We've been looking forward to this event for some time now. We are very happy to be here. So thank you all. When I say we, let me introduce ourselves. I'll move on to the next slide. When I say we, my name is Judith. I am a part of the Alliander OSPO, the Open Source Program Office, and I'm the host for this webinar. I organized this webinar with Naomi and Lindsay from LF Energy, with Hene from RTE France, and with Martijn from Alliander. So thank you also for being here. When we were in preparation for this webinar, I asked Martijn and Hene what their main purpose of this webinar would be. Their answer was, we would like to have everyone see how much OperatorFabric can help their organization, as well as have everyone wondering why they aren't using it already. I think that's a great goal. As a bonus, we would like to expand our community to have more people interested and contributing. And I think that's a great goal, and I hope we can achieve that today. During this webinar, please feel free to ask as many questions in the Q&A as you'd like. We will do our very best to answer them all. If there's no more time during this webinar to answer your question, please feel free to contact us to continue the discussion. Both Hene and Martijn will dive into the specifics of OperatorFabric in a minute, but first I'd like to ask Julie Goodman to do the introduction for this webinar. So thank you, Julie.
Hi everyone. It is really a delight to have this opportunity to speak with you. I remember several years ago going to Paris and having Benoit and Guillaume and Lucien share with me what they had done with OperatorFabric as part of their steps forward to creating a control room of the future. And I was so excited when I saw the demonstration. So it is really a great honor that you all have progressed and really are kind of making these next iterations, and it's really an example of community. So it is an honor to have you all doing this, and Hene and Martin, thank you so much for all your work, Judith, all your work, and everyone else who made this happen, because I know that in the end, it is really a group event. And so this is a great step forward. Thank you very much, Judith, and thank you for having me. Have a great webinar, everyone.
We will. Thank you. Thank you, Julie, for your introduction. Well, without any further ado, I would like to ask Hene to start the presentation. Sorry, I should have moved on to the next slide with the introduction. But anyway, Hene, can you do your part?
Yes. First of all, hello everybody. I'm Hene Safi. I'm the current product owner of OperatorFabric. So I'm very delighted today to be here with you. And I would like first to start my presentation with the very short introduction about OperatorFabric, about RTE, sorry. So RTE stands in French for Réseau de Transport de l'Électricité. It's the French transmission system operator in charge of the largest network infrastructure in Europe of high and ultra high voltage. So since its creation, RTE has developed a strong expertise in assets management, in grid access management, and in electricity flow management. So consequently, RTE's job is very complex given the large scope of its activity. and the scale of its network. So one great example of this complexity is the really very impressive grid control rooms. It is the place when the grid is monitored by a deeply focused operator. So Judith, would you like please to move to the other slide so I can show how the control rooms looks like in RTE. So it's the picture in the screen, the top of the screen with the before multiple screens. So as I said, it's very impressive, and the operator are surrounded by several screens and have to interact with several apps and processes. So the genesis of OperatorFabric comes from this let's say this desire to streamline and lighten the number of these screens, and to offer the operator a better user experience by aggregating data coming from different apps into a single screen. It's what we see at the bottom. And in the next slide, if you would like to move it, thank you, Judith. I will show you I think the most important concepts of OperatorFabric. So this is the main page of OperatorFabric, what we are seeing now, and like I've just said, so the idea behind OperatorFabric is to gather information about the state of processes that are monitored by operator into a single room. So in OperatorFabric, the state of each process is represented by what we call a card. It's what we see in the left side of the screen. It's the colored rectangles that you are seeing. So the cards are sorted on what we call a feed, and they are sorted according to their period of relevance and their severity. So every time the state of a card changes, the card is getting updated, and the color might change as well. So for the time being, we have defined 4 levels of severity. We have red, which stands for alarms. So when the process needs an immediate attention from the operator. For example, there is a critical issue in the grid that needs to be resolved right now, so the card is red. We have the second level of severity, which is orange, which is for less urgent situation, when a process requires an action or input from the operator in the upcoming hours. The third level is a green one. It's would say it's for compliance situations. It's when this situation is compliant to the expected behavior. Let's say the results of calculation is ready, and there is no errors in the inputs or in the outputs. And finally, we have the last level, which is the blue one. It's called notification. It's only informative cards, so no action or inputs are expected from the operator. And one thing that I want you to remember is that these levels, what I have said is only example. It's up to the administrator and the users to share the same comprehension and set what red and critical means to them, and compliant or green, for instance, means to them. So let's go back to the card. And when the user selects a card, there is in the left side, in the right side of the screen, there is what we call the card's detail that is displayed. It contains the details about the card, and it might also contain the action that we can trigger from OperatorFabric. So you have to keep in mind that this content and how it is rendered in OperatorFabric, it's very flexible and configurable. It can be, for example, a plain text, a chart, an array, or a mix of these things. And in addition, at the top of the screen, there is an optional view. It's what we call the timeline. It can be hidden by the user or the administrator, actually, if you do not want to see it. But it's an optional view, and it's allowed to the user to see at a glance the number of events for a given period. So it can be half day to a year. So there are other features actually, but I'm not going to present them today. I think that we have introduced what I have just introduced is all what you need to know to follow this demo today. And also, I think it's a very good start to discover OperatorFabric. So in the next slide, I won't go deep in the and then I won't go deep in the technical architecture. I won't bother you with that today. I just want to highlight through this slide on the ease of integration of OperatorFabric with the existing apps. So the interaction between apps that want to push cards on OperatorFabric is done by using an API called card publication. That is, by the way, well described in our documentation website. And also the template that defines the rendering of a card is very simple to use to make, and is based on HTML, handlebars, or CSS. So it's quite simple. And few words also about our technical stack, which is coming in the next slide. So OperatorFabric backend is mostly written in Java and based on Spring framework, and the front end is based on Angular. We have also CI/CD tools like Sonar, Travis, and Gradle. So, well, I think it's time maybe to be more concrete, and I suggest to move to the demo part. Like Judith said, we have Q&A section, so don't hesitate to submit your question. And Frederic, who is the technical lead, he's with me in this presentation, and he will he or I will answer to your questions. So before starting this demo, I would like to make just a quick disclaimer. So all the use cases that I'm about to show from RTE side are inspired from real ones, but we have made some changes to simplify them for those who are novice in the energy and electricity field, and also for confidentiality matters. Can you move, please, Judith? Yes, thank you. So the first example is about the IGCC, which stands for International Grid Control Coordination. Cooperation. Sorry, I think I made a mistake in my slide. I will start first by giving, let's say, a small background information about the IGCC. So each TSO has the responsibility to keep the voltage and the frequency at a certain level and ensure the equilibrium between the consumption and the production. So when there is an imbalance between the production and the consumption, the frequency and voltage change in the grid. And if nothing is done, it can lead, unfortunately, to a blackout. So to avoid this situation, TSO established several mechanisms, and among them, there is what we call the automatic frequency restoration process, which aim is to restore the frequency to 50 Hertz. So I will be short, but just to explain the mechanism, it consists in injecting or withdrawing electrical power from the grid, and it's now, let's say, managed at the European level under the name of IGCC. Of course, it's a very light and short explanation. You can find, for instance, information about that at the ENSOE website. So every country, each TSO computes frequently the energy that they can provide. And in my example, I will log in OperatorFabric as an operator in a control room, and I will receive several information and update about the IGCC computation. So now I will share with you my screen. Up. I don't know why I don't see the, no, it's good. Up, share, up. Well, do you see my screen? Can you confirm it, Judith, please?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So now I will log at OperatorFabric as a user, like I said, from the control room. And as you say, he has already received cards about what's happening in the grid, and now he will receive, he will start receiving data and cards about the IGCC process. So the first card, the orange one that I've just received, so it's marked, like you see, as unread, is informing the operator that the maximum level of the IGCC cooperation will be about 300 megawatts. And after that, let's say that there is an issue in the grid, let's say a lot of contingencies or a critical situation. So this card will get updated and turn to red. So maybe you don't see my second screen, but I'm simulating an API call to update this card. I'm just connecting from testing. I'm just connected from a testing environment. It's not a production environment, of course. And let's say that the situation is coming back to normal. So my card, it will be updated again, and the operator will receive a new update saying, well, everything is good, so we can go back to the normal levels. So I hope that this example was clear, and like I said before, you can use the Q&A section to submit your question. Now I will move to the second example, and the second example is less related to energy field, but throughout this example I want to show you how OperatorFabric can be used as a tool that facilitates cooperation and coordination between several users and several entities in a company. So in this example, I will log in first as an operator belonging to IT supervision entity, and let's say he is on call duty, and he has noticed that there is a network slowdown at the IT level, so he will send this time a card manually, which is an option from OperatorFabric. We can send cards from coming from third-party apps, or we can create manually cards from OperatorFabric. So this time the IT supervisor will inform the IT control room no, not the IT control room, the grid control room, that there is an issue, a network slowdown that will affect maybe the access to some apps or services. So let's say there is a network slowdown since 5 minutes. Of course, it's alarm because this situation is very critical. The issue is under investigation. Let's say that we have noticed that it has an impact on service A or on service C, or app A or app C, and my IT supervisor wants to notify the control room 1 and the control room 2 because he thinks that they are impacted by this issue. So I will send the card, and as you see, the card, oh, what happens? Maybe I didn't send the card, so network slowdown. I'll repeat. Service A, service C, up, prepare card, send it. So now I think it's okay. So you can see that the card appears in the feed of the IT supervisor, and I will log out from this user and go back to my first user that you have already seen. And since he belongs to the IT control room 1, he will receive the card. So I'm going to open it, see the details. Well, So let's say he has noticed the issue. He will say, okay, but in my point of view, service A, service B, and service C are impacted. I don't have to access to these apps or this infrastructure. So, and I will send my answer. So you can see that the answer is displayed, and he has answered on behalf of the control room 1, which is the entity where he belongs to. So, and also you can see that that control room 1 turns to green. It means that it has answered this card, and the control room hasn't do it yet, so it's now orange. I can log out and log in with another operator. Let's say operator 2, who belongs to the control room 2, who hasn't responded yet. So he will open the card and see the response of the control room 1. Let's say he shares the same point of view of the control room 1. Say, okay, I have the same impact in my point of view, and he will send his response. So both responses are displayed and viewed by the control room 1, control room, and the IT supervision team. So, and we can imagine, of course, if there is updates in this IT issue, in this network slowdown, for instance, they will receive an update. So the card will be updated during the day or during the lifetime of the card. So that was my second demo. So what I want you to keep in mind is that not to think about these examples separately, but see it as how can I say it? Just like I said, in OperatorFabric, see it in the perspective of an operator receiving several data. So he has received information about the IT issues. He received information about the IGCC. You can see now in the screen, he has received information about the outage planning, the IT, the electricity consumption forecast for the day. So I hope that it was very informative. Don't hesitate to submit your question. So as we have said, OperatorFabric is open source tools. So when we say open source tools, it means there is a community behind. So and one of these one of the major contributors in our community, it's Alliander, and we are very happy to collaborate with them since few months now. So I will hand over to the Alliander team to continue this webinar. Thank you.
Well, maybe we can focus on some questions first, Hene. There are a couple of questions regarding RTE as well. One question was, how many users use OperatorFabric on a daily basis at RTE?
Well, from RTE side, it's now under tests. It's I don't have the exact numbers, but we have OperatorFabric is also in a production at the NSOE at NSOE. So it is used for I think 43 countries. I don't have the numbers exactly. Maybe it's around 50. But maybe Guillaume, who is here, I will ask him to give the correct number.
Okay, perfect. We can see the answer in the chat, I think, in a few minutes. Another question: can you use the UC1 to exchange informations with a DSO, for example?
To be honest, I don't know what is it UC1.
Okay.
Is it a special format to exchange data or something like that?
I presume use case one, maybe.
The user cases.
Okay. Use case.
Use case one. Yeah. Can you use user case one to exchange information with a DSO?
The use case one is used with the is under experimentation, and it's used with the Spanish TSO. It's not used with a DSO, but we can imagine this other use cases to exchange, of course, with the DSOs.
It might be possible.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Another question. First, a comment. Awesome demo, which is a compliment to you. To me, it seems difficult to keep track of cards when their color and status change. Is there an easy way to uniquely identify the cards? I did notice the unread symbol and ordering, which might help, of course. Which is
well, we have the unread symbol. Thanks for noticing it. We have another way to, let's say, to lighten the feed by acknowledging cards. So when you read the card and it's you take it into account and you did the action that you need to do, so you acknowledge it, so you have less card in your feed, and you can also let's say when the title of the card is clear, maybe I think it's a good way to keep track of cards.
Okay, perfect. Another follow-up on the users, the amount of users on OperatorFabric was maybe more relevant than number of users. Is the business processes supported, i.e. how critical they are? Can you explain a bit more about the several types of business processes supported by OperatorFabric with RTE?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question, and I can't. It is not displayed in my screen.
Okay. Well, at the bottom you can see the chat icon, and then
yes, I only see 4 open questions.
Yeah, that's in the chat box. This question was from Feder.
Okay. Sorry.
He said maybe more relevant than number of users is the business processes supported by OperatorFabric.
The number of business processes supported we have now, it's around I think 4 or 5 at RTE, but we are it's under experimentation, so it will grow in the upcoming months.
Yeah, true. The reason Feder asked this is he says I have an idea that it is being used quite heavily for important stuff at RTE. So the business processes are quite critical for the company for which you use OperatorFabric. Is that correct? So they are very important. The way you use or for which you use OperatorFabric.
For now, Frederic, yeah, for now it's not that much for important stuff, because as Anna said, internally as an experimentation. So
Mm.
we should be able to work without OperatorFabric today. So it's
Yeah.
not now on really critical stuff.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Frederick. That I believe that was you. Thanks.
Yes,
He
very
said
hard
that.
to hear.
Yeah, it was very hard to hear, but I believe he said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hene, that OperatorFabric is being tested right now mainly at RTE, so not being used for the main critical processes. Correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Hene. I think those were the questions. If you have any other questions, this is for the attendees. If you have any other questions for Hene, please share them in the Q&A or in the chat, and you can answer them while we're moving on. Let me see. I believe you can now see my screen again. I hope. Anyway, let's move on to Martijn.
Yes. Good afternoon to you all. Can you hear me, Judith?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, great. That's great. Well, good afternoon to you all. My name is Martijn van Manen. I'm the product owner of Team System Management. That's one of the teams within the future system operation of Alliander, and the teams who is working on OperatorFabric. Today, first of all, tell you something about Alliander, what we do and what challenges we have in the future. And what has become, why have we started system operations? How do you get to OperatorFabric, and what we did with it. Afterwards, at the end, we'll do some use cases. Unfortunately, I can only do one live demo because we have only one use case implemented. The other ones we'll do by presentation in PowerPoint, and hopefully it will get you enough information about what we do with OperatorFabric. And that's with the next one from Hene. At the end, you can ask all kinds of questions. So, of course, and we have people sitting here behind the computer to answer questions as well. So I have some backup. First of all, I'd like to tell something about Alliander, facts and figures, as I call it. As you can see, it's the largest DSO in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, we have basically, I think, 5 or 6 DSOs, of which 3 are quite big. And of those 3, Alliander is the biggest. A DSO, as Hene just mentioned, we have the transmission system operators, DSO, the distribution system operators, that's called DSO. We have all around about 5.8 million customers, basically with gas and electricity. Of course, someone can have both gas and electricity as a connection, but that, as you can see, the mix is quite large. We have around about more than 7,300 employees, and if you look at the network, I thought it was 100,000 Ks with RTE as the largest TSO of Europe. We have around about 90,000 kilometers of cables in both the mid and low voltage. We do have some small one in the high voltage, but compared to the mid and low voltage, it's fairly small. On the right, you can see where we situated, no, not where we're situated, but which provinces within the Netherlands we provide energy for. The one in green, it says electricity and gas, and the one in orange is only electricity. You can see the main part is the east of the Netherlands, and one of the important ones, of course, is the northern of the west-north part, where Amsterdam is situated. As you can see, that's one of the biggest cities in the Netherlands. And one of the important things for us, for Alliander, of course, is the reliability of 99.99%, which, of course, we want to keep. And that's going to be a challenge for the next coming days, so coming days and years. And that's what I want to explain in the next slides. Please, next slide, please. So the DSO, it used to be like, pretty straightforward and simple. Only the distribution of energy. So production of energy was done at the TSO level, they passed on the energy to the TSO and distributed to the households. So you only had one flow of energy. And as I said, only consumption. So you only had households or large companies and no production within our network at all. And of course, as is in the Netherlands, gas plays a very significant role. It still does, and I don't know where it's going to be in the future, but as some European countries, we have the largest, I think, gas network in Europe, I presume, because as not everyone knows, but we have our own gas in the northern part of the Netherlands, which I think was somewhere in the 50s or 60s laid out. And a very important part of our heating the houses within the Netherlands, and also for the industry, for the Dutch industry. Because of that, also as a heritage, the low volt grid is pretty small for a capacity, because it was never needed. It just needed to heat. Especially if we look at electrical, we didn't need for heating. It just needed to put the lights on, to have maybe look some television nowadays in computers. So that it was never necessary. And also during that time, the old days, speaking about the old days, you had an oversized grid, meaning we had the capacity wasn't any of an issue. It was over dimensioned. We also said, well, it's working fine. That's also why we had the 99.99 reliability. But things have changed. Next slide, please. Judith. Things have changed. I think everybody knows that we're moving forward to a more electricity society. I've placed here a couple of pictures as well. We can see heating, for example. We are moving from gas to more electricity. Electric cars. Maybe some of you already drive one, but as I saw the figures lately, even more and more electric cars are being sold, and phase out of diesel cars. And also what's happening in the past, production was done at the TSO part, but now production of energy is also done at the DSO, the mid-level and low-level voltage. So that's really changing the way we have to work within the DSO. And especially also some phase out of gas. Some even European countries are looking out to actually move from coal to gas, but our next step will be to move from gas to electricity. And you can already see it with the building of new houses. They have to have no gas connection anymore, only electricity. And also with the production, not only a mid-level voltage, but also low-level voltage. As people might see here in the Netherlands, driving around, looking at the rooftops of all kinds of households, more and more solar panels are being installed. So that the electricity has to go from the low-level voltage to the mid-level and so on, to spread around to have, because also the problem is usually it's not being used at the point where it's being produced. So one of the issues we have is to have some capacity management, because we might steer into problems if we don't do anything about that. Being congestion, all kinds of issues we get on the grid. And that is why, next slide please. Within Alliander, we have created a new department called System Operation. Basically, one of the important parts is capacity management, meaning that we don't have any overcapacity somewhere, so we run into issues. Of course, we can always run into issues, but we want to avoid those, or we want to see it coming, things like that. So we can act upon those issues at a very quick pace, and of course, we also are looking at extending the grid, but extending the grid will take time and will take a lot of money, as some of you might know. So we looked at it, maybe at the first sight, we have to do some capacity management. Basically, a system to keep the grid secure. As we always say, to keep the houses warm, and keep the light on. That's one of the main issues and the main goals of Alliander. And always, and maybe for the next step, is working, as I mentioned here, working together towards one energy system. So TSO, because basically we get the same issues now as a TSO had because of the production and the flow of energy going back and forth. The TSO has also the same issues. So the changing world, the changing landscape made us say, well, we need a new department, system operations within Alliander. Next slide, please. So, and yeah, what I said, capacity management, monitoring the grid, what is going on, and that's why we looked at OperatorFabric. The picture you see next to the text is of a cockpit. Basically, what you want to have a cockpit to show you what is going on within the grid, and also to give you an alarm when there's really an issue. As you said, just saw with Hane in her presentation, popping up all kinds of cards showing you, there's something going on within the grid. Made for us OperatorFabric a very interesting contender, and just also because it's open source. I also mentioned it during my last open source webinar. It's pretty easy for us because it's customizing. We can customize it to our own needs. That we can influence development. We are already working together with RTE in the technical steering committee. And also, if you have for example, a propriety, you have to have a supplier. You can always ask him all kinds of questions. Yeah, we'd like to have this and this and this, and does it match what you actually want? And now we have, because with open source, it's a direct implementation. And with regards to customizing, I can already tell you last couple of weeks, we have our first contribution to RTE, which I will show you in the next slides. So I think which can profit both us and RTE. The second part also, because it's a generic dashboard, it's not very specific towards RTE, but generic for example, people in an energy business. So that's made us very interesting for us as well. And we can adjust a few things if we like, and we can show the information we like to show on OperatorFabric. That makes it very interesting. And also, I think what also mentioned is one of the questions you just asked, the opportunity for TSO interaction. I think it is not done yet. It was between TSOs, but I think in the future it is also possible to do DSO and TSO interaction, which is becoming more and more important within the energy system. And also what you just saw, what Hane just mentioned, is applied between TSOs. And next, please. So how did we set up OperatorFabric? And that's what I wanted to mention. We used a BPMN and business process model. The business process model we use is called Camunda. And we did that also because in the beginning, what I just mentioned, we're just a new department. So defining new business processes. And also because they are easy to adjust and might, because in the future we just started, we don't know what the end is going to be. We can have easy to adjust business process. And on the picture on the right, it's fairly small, but I think some of the Alliander guys have seen it already. Basically, what we did is we have a business process, and if there's a user task within this business process, which is still the case nowadays, because of course we want to automate everything, but we still have business user task to fulfill. If that's the case within the business process, it will automatically pop up on OperatorFabric. And for that, we're not using the API, Hane, as I mentioned before, but we integrated together with Kafka into OperatorFabric as well. And that has been our first contribution. And I think in the next release, or this week is going to be the release, I think our code is, we already merged our code with OperatorFabric, also going to be released. So we're already part of the whole OperatorFabric and contributed to OperatorFabric. One of the things you also want to implement is that when you have a user task and somebody is actually logged into OperatorFabric, you only will see, and we're only going to show the user task which are for him. So it's not going to see for anybody else or somebody, but his user task and his sequence, as Anne mentioned before, with the colors and which one is more important and which one is a really alarm. The advantage is working with a business model process is that it's easy insight. You can see what your business process is like, and you have a very good insight is what is going on, and when there is alarm going on, and when do I see something appear on OperatorFabric. You know the underlying business process as well. Zip. Yes, thank you very much. They already look like that was my sign for next slide, Judith, but it was not the case. So now we're going to look at a live demo as well. First, I'm going to have the power quality before I hand over the mic to Sjoerd, who's going to show something about this use case. Power quality is, I think it's even in the regulations, it's the NEN 50160. On the normal, as you can read there, we have to have a power quality which can't be under or 10% underneath or 10% above. We have a range of 10% plus and minus before people start getting issues. General households, it's not the case yet, but I think some businesses might have issues if the power quality is very bad. But anyway, it is even obliged by regulations. So what we did, together with a team called Smart, it's one of the applications within system operations. They have gathered all kinds of smart meter data, which they get from all kinds of households. They do some kind of analysis. They have their own calculator, so to say. They do some analysis on that data coming out of the smart metering, and they decide where it's red, meaning I have to look at the power issue quality, the power quality. There are some issues. Have a look at it, and obviously green, it's okay, no problem. And you can see the business process defined at the bottom right of that the slide. But I think it's better to give the mic to Sjoerd, who can show you how we implemented this use case in our business process model and OperatorFabric.
Thank you. I will stop sharing the screen so you can take over, Sjoerd.
Okay, thank you.
Here you
share screen and even kijken. Do you see anything? Yes, eh? I suppose.
Yeah, we can see your Zoom meeting in your face. Yeah.
Okay, then I show right away the OperatorFabric dashboard because that's more interesting. Thank you, Martijn. My name is Sjoerd Adema. I'm a Java developer in the team of Martijn, called System Management. And I would like to show you how we integrated OperatorFabric with the applications in the application landscape of Alliander. Okay, so here we see an empty dashboard, the OperatorFabric dashboard. And here we have our deployed our business application. Okay, I start with the application, and you see that there is one process deployed. Here again is the business process model. Okay, we received this process model from the Smart team, and they implemented the use case, and they said, okay, now we want to run this in an application. We at System Management, we provided the complete runtime application for this model, or for any model. It's a Spring Boot application which contains the Camunda engine and also a library with all the Java code, all the plumbing contains the project. So the Spring Boot project contains all the software which is needed to run this model. And the only thing we had to do is to configure a property file. When we go through this model, you see that there is a start event, a message comes in with some values, and the business analyst of Smart decided that there must be a decision table here to analyze the values which come in. Afterwards, there is a simple message logger who logs all the values. And I first go to the decision table. It's basically very easy because here all kind of values come in the message, and there is a comparison with those limit values which are defined here in the table. And when, for example, swells L1 has a value larger or equal than 5, then the signal becomes red, and so on for all those values. And those values are in the message which are posted to the application. I will show you that right away. When we go back to the process, then you see when the signal is red, there's you come here in the user task. When we model such a user task, that means that a card is created automatically at OperatorFabric. I will show you how it works. This is the application. Normally, an external system sends a message to this application, but of course, we have no external system, so I sent a message myself by a script. So I switch to my EDA and run a script. I post 6 messages to the business application, and I go back. And I think the great part of such an application is that you can see real time what is the status of the process. And you can see that apparently 3 messages needs to be action upon, and 3 are good and here and finished the process. But 3 user cards must be created now at OperatorFabric, so an operator can handle those cards. When we switch to OperatorFabric, you see 3 cards appeared in the user interface, and you see that none of them are clicked on because the eye with the line through. Okay, when I click such a card, then you see here some data. The data isn't yet designed, how it appears here on the screen. I think the team is in this sprint working on the layout and what an operator needs to act upon this card. Okay, when the operator clicks the checkbox, then he can send back a message to the application. And when I do that, then is the action succeeded. And when I go to the Camuna cockpit, then I see that there are just 2 actions are waiting to fulfill. Martijn told you about the Kafka communication between this application and OperatorFabric. We choose for to communicate in an asynchronous way because imagine you have 50 or more applications and they are communicating with OperatorFabric, and OperatorFabric is offline for some time. Then you must do in all the applications a lot of error handling. So we decided that we want to do this asynchronously. So all the applications can just create their cards commands and put them on a Kafka topic. And when OperatorFabric is up again, then OperatorFabric consumes all those messages, and the operator can see those messages, those cards. So that's the idea behind this kind of communication. And we donated the code to OperatorFabric, and the cooperation with Frederick was very smooth. It was great, and it's now in the official release. And we haven't yet two communication channels to communicate with OperatorFabric. Okay, that's what my part. I hand it over to you, Judith, back.
Yes, please. If you can stop sharing your screen, then I can push the button to start sharing. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Martijn, you can continue. Shall I move on to the next slide?
Yeah, to move on to the next slide. Thank you very much, Sjoerd, for this use case and nice live demo. One of the next use cases we are currently working on is congestion. That's with one of the other teams within Alliander. They build an application called Spike. They look at the capacity on the grid. Unfortunately, it's not. We couldn't show you a demo yet. We're a little bit early. Hopefully, in the next coming weeks, we are able to demo it live as well. But yeah, for now, I'll try to explain it a little bit by using the PowerPoint. Basically, what happens within another team, we make a forecast about a specific point within the Alliander network. It's now one of the points we have is near Rhine, because we know we have some issues there with congestion. You see a nice graph at the right side of the slide, and you also see some small, I think it is an orange colored limits. We have two limits. We have a comfort limit and a danger limit. We have a comfort limit, and it says, okay, watch out, we're going to have an issue. But the danger limit, it says we're definitely going to have an issue, meaning we're going to have congestion. So we have to bring down the capacity. What happens most of the time is that we ask within the market. So we have a lot of people, and we have a specific production or consumption, producing people or consumption people who are contributing to the flexibility market, and then in the case of a congestion, we ask the market whether they can help us to solve this issue. Of course, you can imagine, next slide please, that in case we hit the limit, that we want to have a notification on OperatorFabric. So what we have here, we have a forecast. We see, okay, in that time, there might be some part of, there might be a congestion coming up. So within the process, within the business process, as Sjoerd has also just mentioned, hey, we might have congestion. Then in that case, in the case of congestion, we want to have a notification on the dashboard. In this case, OperatorFabric, where it says card congestions coming up. The whole business process is much more complex than the one I just mentioned, but this is a start. What we're going to do together with Spike, and we might have more, some more use cases along the way, which we pick up together. And I think that's a nice way of cooperating together with other teams, showing how useful OperatorFabric can be. And as with the one with Smart and the one now, We're going to look at a kind of an operator who is going to look at OperatorFabric. What's he seeing? Is he like what he's seeing? As Sjoerd is also mentioning, just now we're showing some kind of numbers, which we might have adjust a little bit, but also we're looking at maybe some graphs. That's also what we're discussing with the Spike team right now, is to add a graph, maybe the graph of the forecast when we expect there will be congestion in the specific point in our network. So we're looking at that all kinds of options. So yeah, hopefully doesn't bring anything for just now for the webinar, but in a couple of weeks we're able to show it with a live demo and showing some nice notifications on OperatorFabric with a nice graph as well. So there you see where we're heading to with OperatorFabric, showing all kinds of alarms, situations which are going on in our grid. And to look at next slide, please. Yeah, to look at the near, maybe between brackets, near future use case. Well, not me, but to be honest, our colleague Laurent had a nice use case which might be coming up in the near future about using OperatorFabric. It's a hypothetical case which we built here, but not that hypothetical that it not be reality. It's become a reality in the near future. But I also want to show you how we see working with OperatorFabric and what it's able to do for us. So next slide, please. Here you can see, well, we already have a card, meaning it's at curtailment required for planned work. Before we go any further, I have to explain it a little bit because with the changing world, we now have those issues, curtailment for planned work. In the future, well, in the past basically, sorry, when we had maintenance work, we didn't have any issues regarding capacity or whatever. Because basically the layout of our network was we had a 50% oversized capacity to do any maintenance work. For example, if we have two bus bars somewhere in the substation, we can always do work on one bus bar without any capacity issues or problems of our network. But what we have seen the last couple of years, of course, is that more and more PV windmills and farms, PV farms are coming in and want to connect to the grid. So on some occasions, we left this 50% overcapacity, meaning if there is any work to do on a bus bar, it means the PV installations and windmill are producing at full capacity, there might be capacity issues. So that's the story behind it. Next slide, please, Julie. So what we see, our work plan needs restriction on grid generations at some kind of points where I think it's called the wild spot. We do have congestion issues over there in Nijmegen North, I know. So what we want to have, of course, here is curtailment. What might be one of the mitigation proposal, we've mentioned here the blocks in green. Well, apply optimal curtailment, meaning, okay, we have looked at this situation and said, well, if we curtail some specific windmill with 10%, another PV with 20%, then and no issues might occur. But also what we can say, well, this can't be. We can't do any plant work because, I don't know, it could be we can't curtail any of the PV or whatever. That could also be a possibility. But now we have the assumption that we go for mitigation proposal number 1. On the right, what you also can see is TSO curtailment and TSO balance. Well, the thing is, because we might want to tell people, please curtail, otherwise we have an issue. But we also have the TSO balance. I think Thijs also had noted in the chat about the TSO balance market to keep the balance on 50 hertz. It could be that one of the windmills or PV installations which are on the grid connections mentioned here are joining the FCR market, meaning they when the TSOs will ask them for, okay, please reduce your capacity, or maybe you can increase your capacity to stick to the 50 hertz, they can participate. But it could be the case that the TSO is saying, well, we need more power, and this, for example, this windmill is joining, but on the other hand, we are saying, whoa, 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 if you're gonna, we are doing some maintenance work, if you're gonna increase power, our capacity will have a huge issue because we need curtailment. So, so next slide, please. In this case, we did activate the first mitigation issue, and then you see on the TSO balance blocked by the TSO, meaning please don't do any balancing because we need, yes, thank you, we need that one to be blocked. So otherwise we run into all kinds of issues. And if you look at the next slide, we don't know yet for the other one. It will appear some minutes later. Then you see it is blocked as well. So we have the other two are active. We have asked those windfield PV farms or whatever, one of the two, to be active in curtailment, meaning we can do the maintenance work, and we have asked the TSO to block the balance. So here you can see the interactive the interaction between OperatorFabric and the rest of all kinds of applications. Yeah, let's see how it moves forward from here. But of course, to come from the fairly easy use cases we just first mentioned towards a very complicated one using OperatorFabric, it's still a long way to go. But we just wanted to show you what the possibilities are for the DSO with OperatorFabric. That's what we wanted to, I think it was the last slide for me. We wanted to tell about OperatorFabric and the DSO.
Well, perfect. Thank you, Martijn, for your presentation, and Sjoerd as well for your demo. Let me see. I would now like to ask Hene to take over, because we've seen a lot of great demos and heard a lot of interesting information, and I'm sure you're all wondering how to contribute to OperatorFabric. So Hene is going to tell us a bit more about that.
Well, thank you, Judith. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your experience and on how you use OpFab. So I hope that these demos have been very informative. And so if you wish to go further and to discover more OperatorFabric, you can find all the documentation in the website, on our website. Well, I'm not sure that you will share with the attendees the slides. So I will send. I've just sent the URLs, because I've just put the hyperlinks. Like I said, the documentation is available on OperatorFabric website. We also have there a very interesting getting started tutorial that you can follow easily. So you can play with cards and understand more how OperatorFabric is working. So, and the source code is available on GitHub, and I've shared also the link. And also you can run the Docker images for each microservices. You can pull it from Docker Hub. Next slide, please, Judith. So if you want to join us and to be part of this great adventure, we'll be delighted to welcome, of course, new members. So anyone can join us and take part in the project. And it's not only by coding, but it can also have other aspects. You can help us improving our documentation. So as I said, it's available on our website, and you can read it and raise issues if you see that something is not clear enough. You can translate it to other languages so we can reach a large community. You can report bugs. So in the project level, we have implemented tests at several levels to ensure a good code quality. So we have unit tests, API tests, end-to-end tests, and so on. But there is no bug-free software, you know it. So if you come across to any bug, you can raise and open the issue on GitHub. And also you are welcome to submit suggestion or new ideas for new features. Of course, we are open to discuss all suggestions and new ideas to improve OperatorFabric. And of course, you can make a code contribution by creating a new pull request on GitHub. So all the contribution guidelines are described on GitHub and in the contributing section. Well, now I will let you, maybe Judith, to wrap up this webinar if we don't have further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Hene. I believe there are no further questions. I saw that Naomi or Lindsay said that we will share the recording, the PowerPoint, and any links shared with the attendees and the broader community. So everything will be sent to you after the webinar. Anyway, thank you very much for being here, for your questions, for well, being interested, and well, as Hene said, we would love to expand our OperatorFabric community, so feel free to contribute in whatever way you can. Thank you for being here, for attending this webinar, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon about OperatorFabric or other ideas that you might have been inspired to have. Have a good evening or a good day, and thank you. Bye-bye.